Here I am. Do you hear me?
Yeah, we do that.
We do.
Yeah, and the music's only coming out from here, from the TV.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, let's do it
the
over.
music is only playing from the TV, not from here.
It's all good. We gotta. We'll figure it out.
Should we start over?
Yes.
Is that me?
I don't think it's that.
Well, this is mine. This is my mic.
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think it's on here.
Well, for those of you that didn't hear, we are back. I'm back. I mean, you've been here.
I've been here.
You've been.
You've been here too.
I've been here. Yes, definitely in spirit.
Yeah.
It is March 3rd. It is Women's History Month,
It is.
and I'm excited to be back. I'm happy to be back and alive.
Mm-hmm.
And before we had issues, I was saying that I wanted to wish a happy birthday to my niece,
Mm-hmm.
Sharíck. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Shari. Yeah.
And I'm auntie, y'all, so.
There you go. Aren't we all?
Yes, we are all aunties.
I
and
definitely
uncles at
carry a
heart.
lot of auntie energy.
I think millennials are really embracing the auntie and uncle culture, so, you know.
Well, thank you for being you. And we're gonna switch things up a little this episode. Things are usually fun here. They're light, but we're gonna get very real today. As most of you know, Sharíck was on a hiatus for a while. We're gonna dive into that and talk about a very real thing that's happened in Sharíck's life. And I think this will be good for you. This is part of your healing, I think, being able to share in the way that you're going to share.
Definitely. So, while Kelvin's trying to figure out what's going on with our audio, I was just like, I haven't heard that intro song in so long.
Yeah.
It's been over a month.
It has been. Well, let's talk about it. Let's start off with why you've been gone for so long.
Yeah, so I didn't get the chance to. Actually, what's funny is the last episode I was going to announce it, and then I, for whatever reason, forgot. I think we just got wrapped up in our conversation, and I thought about it like afterward, like, oh, I didn't say anything.
Yeah.
But you were actually one of the first people I told.
Yeah.
I found out I was expecting. Well, myself and Miku were expecting in September. So I was in here, fat face, everything. A lot of people that were actually watching the show, a couple people hit me up like, your face a little fat. Are you pregnant?
Y'all some shady watch viewers.
So it was getting to a point where I couldn't hide it anymore. And we had tables, so y'all didn't see the belly was definitely there, but I was expecting. The day we were supposed to have our show, which was Thursday, January 20th, in the very, very wee hours in the morning, I ended up having a lot of pain in my uterus. I guess that's what, I was having a lot of pain, just experiencing something I had never felt before.
Yeah.
And we ended up, smartly going to labor and delivery.
Yeah.
I was actually going to go to urgent care. But something in my spirit said, no, call your labor and delivery people. That's what they're for. I called them. So shout out to Verdugo Hayes USC Hospital. They told me, come here now. It was about a 20-minute drive. It was pretty painful getting there, but we got there. I don't know how I got in the car. I don't know how I did any of it.
Yeah.
I got wheelchaired in. When we got there, I passed out. Just went blank. And
in the wheelchair?
Once I got into the room and they were examining, they said the baby looked fine. Her heartbeat was just kind of slow, but she looked okay. We had just found out that she was a she, by the way. And I mean, I'll let when we talk to Miku, we can continue for it because I was out. But I was shaken, woken up, and was taken into emergency surgery where I had to have an emergency C-section. So I was put to sleep. And then when I woke up, I was informed that my baby girl didn't make it. So it was really, I think I was just more so in shock at the time. And I kind of, on my way to the hospital, somewhat was preparing myself for that.
Yeah.
In my head, I didn't say it out loud. But she was born. So I actually had a premature birth. She wasn't stillborn. She didn't pass away before she came into the world. She actually did take breath.
Yeah.
And she was alive for 30 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And she just was too little, and she had been without oxygen for too long. And what happened was I had what's called a uteral abruption, which is when the woman's uterus is not able to stretch for whatever reason, and there's a tear somewhere in the uterus.
Yeah.
And she slipped out. And that's where the pain was coming from. So she slipped out. She was without oxygen. They were able to get her out. She was alive, but barely.
Yeah.
And so I had to be stitched up, sewed up, back together. I lost 60% of my blood, and I had to have six blood transfusions.
Wow.
And 3 platelet transfusions. So I almost didn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
Which is really crazy to think about.
Terrifying.
Yeah, but of course I'm not conscious, so I don't know any of this.
Yeah.
But when I did wake up, they're telling me all this stuff, and I'm just like in a daze, just not like okay, really processing everything. It was to the point nurses were crying, and they were coming in my room and saying to me, "Oh, I'm just so happy to see your eyes open." It was a really, really surreal thing. And that was on a Thursday. So you had actually called me, and I'm in my hospital bed answering your phone call, like, oh.
Yeah. Well, Miku called me. Okay. Miku called me when everything was happening, and I remember being like, "What?" Like it was wild to me, and I didn't know what to think. I was so scared, and I was like, keep me informed. Let me know whatever updates. And I think you and I spoke later that night, or was it maybe the next day?
Possibly, yeah.
It was probably the next day. And I mean, yeah, we canceled the show. We obviously, and yeah, that was a terrifying day.
Yeah, it was crazy, and I think I had even started trying to like plan the show or something like that. I just wasn't really realizing what was really happening in that moment. It was hitting me, but I was like, okay, I'm about to get out of here.
Yeah.
And the doctors were like, no, you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And I was in the hospital for almost a week.
Yeah.
I'd never been in the hospital that long. It was horrible, even though the place was really beautiful. Like I said, shout out to Keckmet and USC.
And you were instructed to be on bed rest for 6 weeks, right?
I'm still technically supposed to be sitting down, but I'm sitting down.
Yeah, you're sitting down.
So
you're sitting down.
I've been off work for 8 weeks total is what they say whenever a woman has a cesarean section. She gets an additional amount of minutes if the woman has the baby.
Yeah.
Via cesarean versus vaginal.
Yeah.
So thank God for this job that I have. So job security was not difficult, but
if I click it,
definitely
it goes on.
just having to sit down and regroup and recoup myself has been very humbling.
Yes.
And this whole experience has just been eye-opening, and I'm still taking it day by day.
I'm sure. So you actually posted about what happened on social media. You posted a picture with you and your baby, and then you made mention of a disease that you have called endometriosis.
Yes.
So I want to get into that. Tell us what endometriosis is, how it's affected you, and did this disease have a direct impact to what happened with the baby?
It's indirectly. So I'll just read the definition online. Endometriosis is an often painful disorder in which tissue similar to the tissue that normally lines the inside of your uterus, which is called the endometrium, grows outside of your uterus. Endometriosis most commonly involves your ovaries, fallopian tubes, and the tissue lining your pelvis. So with that, I have what is a disease, which a lot of people don't know that it's actually classified as a disease. 1 second. They can hear. 1 second. Here. Sorry about that, guys. We're trying to get this figured out. But endometriosis, which is something that I've suffered with my entire life.
Yeah.
From the time I was in puberty and started puberty, I didn't know it though. And what's really tumultuous about this disease is that endometriosis oftentimes isn't diagnosed. Well, it's not diagnosed at all until you have a surgery.
Yeah.
So imagine going your whole life not knowing that you have this disease that people don't know about, no one understands.
And how common is it?
It's extremely common.
Yeah.
Extremely common. Very common in the African American community as well. And for me, it was accompanied with a lot of pain. Every time I would have my menstrual cycle, I would just be in tumultuous pain. you know, to the point where I couldn't go to work, I couldn't go to school, I couldn't do anything, you know, a lot of other stuff I just don't want to talk about on the radio.
Right.
But it's just a really, really awful thing for any woman, especially a young girl, to go through.
Yeah.
And while I was trying to figure out what was wrong with me, I was told, oh, you know, it's just common. This is something that all women go through. You just have to get used to it. Take some Tylenol, take some ibuprofen, and, you know, just deal with it. Grin and bear it, you know, not knowing that it's not
there was
normal.
a deeper issue.
There's a deeper issue. It's not normal. Women aren't supposed to go through this.
No.
At all.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just one of those things that I had to kind of learn through the process on my own.
Do you feel this disease is what caused the death of your baby?
Indirectly, because what happened was back in November of 2019, I went ahead and had the surgery to be diagnosed with endometriosis so that they can also scrape out the endometriosis. And I also had fibroids.
Yeah.
Which is another thing that really plagues the African American community. Women of color have fibroids, and it's just one of those things that you just hear about. And you know, I know my mother had it. Women in my
I know
family
a lot of
had
women who've gone through. Yeah. Who've had
so you know, that was also an issue for me. And in my mind, I'm saying to myself, okay, I would really like to have kids one day, and this is not going to be helpful towards that goal. So I just decided, okay, well, let's get it out. So I had surgery in 2019. The one thing that was not quite explained to me in depth is when I have the surgery, it's going to create scar tissue in my uterus. And what the scar tissue in the uterus does is it complicates pregnancies because it can tear, it can rip. It's very delicate tissue. So of course I try not to go back and forth blaming myself for my decisions and what happened because I didn't know. But from what the doctors say, perhaps because I had got pregnant so soon after I had the surgery, my body hadn't healed fully. And therefore my uterus tore. And that's how that happened. So indirectly, yes.
So how have you managed this disease through your life? I mean, have you had help? How has it affected you as a creative?
Well, a whole other episode that I can get into is talking about the whole birth control and fertility industry in general. But a lot of women are pushed birth control. If you have painful periods, get on birth control. If you're cramping, if you're bleeding heavy, if you're irregular, get on birth control. And that's just the thing. That it's just a blanketed solution for everyone, which I think is incredibly toxic and unhealthy. For me, fortunately, but yet unfortunately, I had a health center on my high school campus, and they prescribed birth control. And I went through different rounds of birth control, unbeknownst to my parents, of course. Because you can do that in California.
Oh, wow.
And I ended up, you know, on a long-term birth control regimen, which I feel was unhealthy for me. But that was the only thing that I was able to utilize that can get me through the day. Otherwise, no one's going to let me be off work for 3 or 4 days every month whenever I'm in pain, you know. And I've had women bosses that would kind of snicker at me if I told them I wasn't feeling good, like, oh girl, you just on your period, like it's not that bad. You know what I mean? Not knowing that I've blacked out from the pain. You know, I've vomited 20 times per day. You know, it's a really, really excruciatingly painful disease. And no fault to my mother, but you know, even she was like, you need to kind of toughen up and try to get through it and try to go to work and try to go to school. You can't just stop your life with this process. So, you know, and I understood that, but it was still really hard to get through. And I really don't think I had an advocate for my issue. I just had to, in time, figure it out.
We're going to pause for a second. Just hold that thought. Can you mute our mics?
Sorry about that. We appreciate everybody that's
Yes,
watching.
thank you everyone for watching.
These technical difficulties. Welcome back, Sharíck.
Welcome back, Sharíck. It's fine. It's fine. You came back to a whole new setup.
Yeah.
There are different things. There are things happening.
Yeah.
But let's get back into it. And I want to also mention that you know, when I ask how has it affected you as a creative, I'll speak specifically to this show. Like, first, you're a warrior. Like, I must say. I mean, I couldn't have imagined being in your position. You know, myself, I probably would have shut the world out. I probably would have like needed to be in a space that didn't involve people. But even after all that had happened, you were in constant communication with me. You might have not been here in the studio, but like, I mean, you were working with me on the back end, helping me produce as we normally do. And like, my hat's off to you because that was very brave. That was very just, I don't know, was that something that you felt was helping you cope or kind of helping you distract from to really being in that mind?
For me, it's hard to say. It just, things still need to happen. You know, like I couldn't just not let the show go because I'm not there. You know what I mean? Like I still wanted you guys to succeed and I still wanted to be here and in spirit. And during the time, my downtime, I've really just been kind of regrouping and calibrating, what's important in my life and the things that I need to focus on. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm heavily dependent on this 9 to 5 right now.
Yeah.
And I haven't been wanting to be dependent on anybody other than myself. So I've been thinking about and writing notes and watching, financial stuff every single day. Like creating homework for myself. So that's how I have to get through because, having a kid is a big deal. And I'm still in that mode because I know I still ultimately want to have a family. I may have lost my baby, but I have to keep going. I still have to prepare for adulthood. We're still adulting.
Yeah,
we are adulting. Adult better.
We're all still trying to figure it out.
Definitely.
I want to ask, what are some misconceptions of endometriosis and fibroids, or what women struggle with in Firo pertaining to womb ailments and health?
What I said, that it's a blanket solution. One of the women that I follow is Tia Mowry. Tia Mowry also has endometriosis.
Yeah.
And recently I was watching, what's that comedian with the blonde hair? Amy Schumer.
Oh,
I watched her documentary, and she had hypermeiosis during her pregnancy, which basically means she couldn't hold down any food throughout her whole pregnancy. And it just looked extremely, extremely horrible. But I was thinking to myself, had I had a different lens looking at her story, I probably would have been like, well, can't you just take something and make it go away?
Right.
And there's just so many things that women go through. And specifically with endometriosis, a lot of people don't know that it's a disease. And I have to tell them, I have a disease.
Yeah.
It's not a condition, it's an actual disease.
Yeah.
So, and it's dangerous, it's hurtful. Women have committed suicide with this disease.
Yeah.
I looked on the there's a fund, a nonprofit called Endo Fund, and there's a story about a young lady younger than me that took her own life because she couldn't deal with the pain anymore. And just because you get diagnosed, it does not mean that you're just not going to have pain anymore. Just because I had the surgery doesn't mean my endometriosis has gone away.
Yeah.
I still have it, and it's going to grow back eventually. So that's one of probably the biggest misconceptions I even had. I'm like, wait, you telling me I just had this surgery and I'm about to have endometriosis still again? It's coming back?
Yeah.
It's very frustrating. So I think people just need to be very gentle with women in general.
How can others, even men, be advocates for women who suffer womb diseases and complications?
Educate yourselves. Definitely educate yourselves. Women are powerful, powerful beings. If I didn't think that before, I definitely think that now. Like the fact that we can grow other human beings in our bodies amidst all of the complications that can happen. There's so many things that can happen during pregnancy that are just tumultuous. I recently heard about a young lady who passed away during childbirth. And
which also happens.
It happens a lot.
A lot.
It happens a lot, specifically in the Black community and in BIPOC communities. Women die a lot during childbirth. Someone said, word to the mothers. Yes, y'all better appreciate y'all.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
there's so much.
Mm-hmm.
And even for me, during my pregnancy, I had a very difficult pregnancy. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was very sick throughout my pregnancy. It was really, really hard for me to get up and do anything each day. But my partner, he's been amazing. He helped me, he helped feed me, help do all the little things that needed to be done without complaining either. And that's the thing. I think women try to be so strong and take care of everything, and we don't realize, that it's okay to be vulnerable in that moment. You don't have to be a superwoman. And, to all the girls that are doing dances and TikTok dances 9 months pregnant, congrats to you.
Yeah.
But that's not everyone's experience.
Yeah. And I think it's far more common than people actually talk about.
Yeah.
Like, because pregnancy it's not an easy thing. It's not a normal, I don't want to say normal, but it is a very complicated thing that's going on inside of a woman's body.
Yeah.
It's not so simplistic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. I want to know, do you plan to have another baby? Like, what have you learned from this experience, and what do you think your plans are in that regard?
Well, the first thing that the doctor said, shout out to my doctors. I do want to say I had 3 amazing Black female doctors that, I was working with during my pregnancy, and that were pretty much, by my side. And a Black woman saved my life. Had she had not made the split decision to let's get her into surgery, I wouldn't be here right now.
Yeah.
So I do want to say that. However, the very first thing she said to me was, I don't think you should ever get pregnant again. Like, you just shouldn't do it. And I hear you. I'm saying to myself, I hear you. However, I have faith, even if it's the size of a mustard seed. I know, and I've seen other women go through a similar process, and they've had babies, and they've been able to, conceive and get through. There are other options. I do have a good friend who's probably going to call in a second, who is a surrogate. There's surrogacy, but there's a lot of misconceptions and about surrogacy, especially within the BIPOC community. It's kind of like, Black people, we don't do that. We don't do surrogates.
Yeah.
So there's that. And even me, I think I still have some misconceptions about that, but I definitely do want to try again. I just want to give myself time to heal.
Yeah.
I want to really just give myself a platform and the opportunity to really just do it the way I really want it to be done.
Yeah. No, I surrogacy is definitely a thing that I think we should learn more about. Because you're right, there are a lot, especially a lot of like the Black and brown communities. We're immediately gonna kind of look at, no, that's not what we do. But actually, Candy Burris, she had a surrogate with her last child.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And I remember on the Real Houses of Atlanta, she specifically wanted to put that on the show because she wanted other Black families to see that this is not just a thing white people do.
Exactly.
There are other options to create and expand your family.
Exactly.
And so that was something that she was very vocal about.
Yeah. Before I found out I was pregnant, I think I had told you I read Gabrielle Union's book, her latest book, and she really dug into her complications and what she went through with Kavia James. I love that kid. She's so funny. But she just kind of spoke about her experience and the fact that she even opted to have a white surrogate because her own internal fears told her, like, yo, if you get pregnant and try to peel off with my baby, you white. You can't just be walking around with this white baby, this Black baby.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
But there's just so many, there's just so much that goes into it, and it's really expensive.
Yeah.
It's extremely expensive. We talked about egg freezing. I looked at that price tag. I said, no, honey. It's too much. It's a lot. And if you think about it, a lot of BIPOC people that are in, underdeserved and underserved communities, they can't afford to freeze their eggs. And then we're talking about these biological clocks, and it's so much that goes into it. But I think, like I said, I just have to be steadfast. I have to be patient. I have to be kind to myself and my body.
Yeah.
And whatever happens is what's gonna happen.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Is your friend Amber gonna call in? Is she?
She'll call me.
Okay. Let's. I want to get some added perspective here, and I want to talk to Miku. So Miku is your partner,
Yeah.
and I want to talk to him and see how has this experience affected him, right? You know, so many times couples lose a child, we don't hear too much from uh the partner. So I want to understand the perspective of the partner and how he coped and how he dealt and you know what went through his head the day that it happened.
Yeah, and I want to say too, not yet. I want to say too, when one of the things that he did, because I decided I just needed to just be us, like needed to just be me and him. Once I got out of the hospital, I retreated. I was just with him. He was in his studio, and you know, I couldn't do anything. I couldn't go anywhere. He really couldn't do anything or go anywhere. So he really took his grieving process into his art, and he ended up completing an album, which we know had this situation not have happened, he was still planning on putting out this album, but it was something he wasn't planning on doing in January. So that was really, you know, that was really one of the remarkable things that came out of this situation, and it's a really good album. Is our audio connected?
No.
Our audio is not connected.
He's trying to figure it out.
We'll send the link for y'all to listen to the song because y'all want to hear it from super far away right now. But we can go ahead and bring Miku in a second. But he definitely was an advocate for me. Oh, we are getting
What's that?
caller. Can you hear us?
Hello?
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. This is Amber.
It is. I'm sorry, you guys. I was so busy listening and I forgot that I needed to dial in.
It's all good. Well, how are you doing, Amber?
I'm sorry?
How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I'm moving on the road with the kids, but I'm doing very well. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm happy to hear your voice. I was reaching out to you because I had saw a post that you had put up recently. You are a surrogate, correct?
Yes, I am.
Yes. So, you know, in the midst of me talking about surrogacy and finding out more about it amidst my own inhibitions, I saw your post and it actually literally brought me to tears. One, because I know that you had your own womb struggles throughout your journey as a woman. And then I know that, you know, you're pregnant with twins, right?
Yes. I had, actually, right when I was at 19, I was diagnosed with cervical cancer.
Wow.
But granted, it was coming right into stage 2. And if you, with cervical cancer going through stages. So very early, my doctor pretty much just told me, like, either your options, either or go cut into your cervix and that's it. No babies for you.
Wow. Wow. So then in terms of you becoming then a surrogate, how did that even come about?
For me, it was a very early struggle that I went through with my surrogacy, or not with the surrogacy, but with cervical cancer. And so I was determined to be a mother. I was like, I'm young, you're not stripping that option from me. And so when I went through it holistically, when I went through my healing with that, I kind of just always knew that the point was literally like having conversations with my partner now, like saying like this might have to be an option. Like I may not be able to carry. And so when I finally was able to like keep a baby, I had to miscarriage myself. I just knew that that was going to be my way of paying that forward, of like thanking the universe for honoring me and blessing me and allowing me to move through cervical cancer, to be healed from cervical cancer, and then to be that blessing to someone that literally like is going through that struggle. And that's like your option. You want to have a baby. So, you know, what better way to be, you know, to show gratitude than to be a surrogate and to be that blessing to someone you can't complete.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I really appreciate that. That's amazing, and I'm happy that you're alive and well because that's a big deal. Cervical cancer. And then, can you answer to me what are probably the biggest misconceptions you feel in the Black and Brown community in regards to surrogacy? Because I know a lot of people kind of turn their nose up at it, and what can you say and speak to that?
Um, you're very right. I have like people within my own family that are like, that's weird. Like, like what do you mean you're carrying somebody like somebody else's baby? Like it's a weird space because most people think that, when we think about building families, it's this natural way or what we perceive or what we have been conditioned to perceive as this natural way of how we're supposed to be bringing families into the world. And so this very foreign concept of somebody else carrying somebody else's, sperm and somebody else's egg, and you're like this vessel, it just seems very weird. And they do very much turn their noses up to it because, that's not what we do. But in a sense, we're allowing for ourselves to suffer when there's so many ways and avenues that are open for people to be blessings and for us to allow for ourselves to create families when there are women who literally struggle with it. So in those regards, I just wish that people would sometimes be very open and a little bit more open-minded in how there has to be more creative ways, especially in how we assist as people and how open we are as people to being open into how families are created.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Well, thank you so much for calling in. You and I are going to have many more conversations.
We're gonna have a part two.
Yes, we're definitely going to have a part two, and maybe we can even bring you into the studio to talk more about it because this is a major issue in with a lot of women. White women, black women, brown women, and to be a surrogate and to bring that blessing into someone else's life, that's truly, truly amazing. And we just appreciate you. You are a warrior. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. You are worth yourself.
Thank you. Thank you. We will talk to you soon. Thanks for calling in, love.
Bye.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
She had cervical cancer.
Yeah.
And now she's a surrogate with twins.
Wow.
So that's what I'm saying. Like doctors would.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Like you can't just depend on medicine, even though it's good to be smart and follow the science. And in the event that I were to, have another child, I would be very cautious and respectful and to my body and to myself.
Yeah. We're gonna take a pause real quick. Yeah. We'll reset. We'll come back and we'll bring back. We'll come on with Miku. The music's not going to play on here. So.
Again, technical issues.
Technical issues.
But we're just going to jump into bringing on Miku, who is the love of my life, my baby daddy.
Okay.
And you had a couple questions about him, but I just really appreciate, him being by my side and really sticking with me. And then, like I said, he came out with this album, which is called Hybrid Vibes Volume 2. He really just poured his heart and soul into it. So, thank you, Miku.
Yeah, Miku, thank you for being here. Miku, walk me through that day and what that was like for you. What was going on in your head? What were you witnessing? What was happening when Sharíck was unconscious?
Well, I mean, it started when we were at the crib earlier that day, Thursday night. What was it?
Yeah, it was Thursday morning.
So,
Thursday morning.
So throughout the day, she was feeling pain.
Yeah.
And I think that night I left to go to the studio, but before I left, I asked her, I said, "Hey, how you feeling?" She, let me know that she was still feeling pain, and I told her, I said, "Okay, let me go to the studio. When I come back, we'll figure it out." So when I came back from the studio, I think it was around like 5 in the morning, and she was still feeling pain. So I asked her, said emergency type of pain. She said emergency type of pain. So we ended up heading to the emergency room, as she rightfully said. And yeah, man, everything was happening so fast. Once we got into the room, with the doctors and stuff. And me, I'm a body language reader. I read body language very well, and I could tell that things weren't right.
Right.
So in my spirit, I just immediately started praying. And yeah, man, it just the way everything happened. They had asked her a couple questions and told her that they were going to give her a shot, to kind of like get her prepared for the operation.
Yeah.
So when they gave her the shot, immediately she was like, I'm about to pass out. So within 10 seconds, she passed out. And I'm like, babe, trying to wake her up. So the doctors immediately saw that reaction and response. We're like, yeah, we need to take her like ASAP. So we took her out of the room. The whole time in the room, doctors are coming in and out of the room where I'm chilling.
Yeah.
And just checking in on me, not knowing how I was gonna, how I am, or how I would react to this, the event.
Yeah.
So they're just, kind of coming in and out of the room, just seeing how everything is with me, and updating me about her, And a couple minutes later, they came in about the news about the baby. And yeah, man, it's just, it was tough. So from there, they told me she was doing okay, but they didn't give me full details about what was happening with her. They again still checking in and out. So like I said, everything was happening so fast. And I'm thankful to God that she's still here.
Yeah. Because I can imagine, I mean, the loss of the baby, and then, it was you almost lost her. I could only imagine what might have been going through your mind in that moment.
And it's crazy because I was off no sleep. I didn't sleep. I was in the studio all morning. And I didn't even sleep the whole time I was in the hospital.
Yeah.
Do it. So
and you've been by her side ever since.
I'm by her side.
So this sprung about you deciding to push out the album early, right? And I think I want to ask, what motivated you to do that and put it out at this time? Like, did it feel right to you?
Well, yeah, I mean, the only way I only move based off of feeling and how I feel. And, you saw how Sharíck was.
Yeah.
You were doing the show and she was calling in. How I feel is, Peanut, our daughter, even though she didn't get to breathe a full life here, she was a message from God. Truly, to keep doing and keep going. That there's hope. And that was just from that I knew to, continue, keep fighting, and keep doing what we're doing.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's something to say that, through loss, Peanut could probably live through your art, both of your art, which is a testament to any creative. I think that's something, a way to maybe cope with certain things and finding ways to find that love and that everlasting life through what you create.
Definitely.
Yeah. Miku, what do you think other men should know about the grieving of a baby and supporting their partner?
See, the thing is, we can never know what a woman is going through, really, because she'll never really open up to. All we can really do is just, stay strong in who we are.
Yeah.
And be there to support. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say. Just to be there to support her and do the process.
Yeah. Okay. I know he was. Period. That's Miku. That's how Miku do.
Yeah, I want to say too, my dad, like my mom, my whole family came out. Like they were there, like if not that day, the next day. My sisters, my niece. One of the things that kind of clicked with me, because my dad spent the night, he was like, let Miku go and get a breather, because he was in the hospital. That was a whole other situation. But my dad was like, I'll stay, let him go and do his thing. And my dad was in the hospital with me. And I took a picture of my dad laying on the cot in the hospital. And I was like, look, being a dad doesn't stop when your kid turns 18.
Yeah.
Here I am, 33, going on 34, and my daddy is in the hospital with me. Like it doesn't stop. It's a major, role being a parent. My dad is a creative also. He had to miss out on work, and he's an independent contractor.
Yeah.
But he was there, and I know Miku would do the same thing. So
Absolutely.
it was really, this whole experience was just eye-opening on the many sides of bringing children into this world. And how it can affect everyone.
I want to thank you both for sharing your story, sharing this experience, because I think this happens too often to so many people, and I think a lot of people don't, out of fear or just out of pain, choose to not share their stories. So you're being very brave by doing this, and I really feel like this is something that people can learn from, can take away from, and relate to, because it's far more common than people think. And so I just really thank you for sharing, because we missed you, but
I missed y'all.
Yeah.
And it's, and talking about it has been the best thing.
Yeah.
And I normally would not have, because I'm so private, like I said earlier. But I knew that advocacy was going to be how I got through this.
Yep.
Because something has to come from this.
For sure.
Like losing a child, and I have to tell people, because a lot of people come up to me and they say, "Oh, you'll have another, you'll have a baby, you'll be fine, you'll be okay." And I want people to also think about their insensitivities that they may not know about, because telling a woman, "Oh, you'll have another," you don't know what it took for that woman to get to that point.
Right.
So to say to her, "Oh, you'll have another," you'll have another. No, I wanted that.
It's not a disposable experience.
Exactly.
It's traumatic.
Exactly.
And
And I think, like I said, in our underserved and communities, we need to think about that a lot more, because we put a lot of pressure on women to produce. And I see it in a completely different light now, and I have a lot more sympathy for women and men who have suffered a loss. Because I've even thought that, "Oh, you can just have another one." No, it doesn't just work like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to disregard the baby that I had. I wanted her.
Yeah.
I wanted her. So, just want to put that out there. People try to think about your own insensitivities and your own ignorances when it comes to the situation. I know I am.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, we're gonna switch gears. Miku, thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing. We're gonna bring on another guest that we have.
I think now would be a good time to click off and reset.
Okay.
We bring each other, because we want to hear from her.
For sure.
Thank you all for tuning in. We're going to reset. If you are on our YouTube channel, you can come back on and go. We're going to have a very, very, very special performance.
Shout out to Milo.
And Milo, our puppy. We'll be right back. Go ahead and go to YouTube, and we'll be back in T-minus 2 minutes.
2 minutes.